Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, finally we have here the notes that I wanted to present to you guys for so long of the first AOC meeting that happened quite a while ago. But now we have the, how do I explain, the okay as to what we can say, what we can't say, and their answers that we can provide to you guys. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start off obviously with me. Straight away. Wanted to make this as, at least for the people who follow me and you want to know about the stuff that I'm doing, y'all be the first one, and then I'll just work my way up into the rest of the others. So basically, one of the ideas that I presented was the streamer mode. If you haven't heard about this streamer mode, I called it streamer mode, but it's not actually a streamer exclusive mode. It's more of like a hide your name kind of thing in order to prevent targeting. And maybe, yes, occasionally some stream sniping in case, like, imagine you end up finding a TTV in a game and you end up going into his stream just to see exactly what's going on the enemy side, etc, etc. So this could actually happen, and this is a thing that happens in many different games, not just Paladins. We even have it on Smite, for example. Now, what Design said was that, well, they thought the idea was a good thing and they were going to put this into the backlog, and that indeed a game that does have this is Smite. I ended up just giving 1 or 2 tips as to how to make it a little bit more perfect, and, hopefully they will make it into the game. Not right now, obviously, because this does need to be built from zero, and very much likely it's not even going to be working at full potential straight away from the start, but hopefully in the near future we're going to be able to see that. Now, another thing that I decided to also mention was better information in game. Now, what I mean about better information is, like, the little info button you got on Ranked, where you press it and it gives you specific information to teach you exactly what Ranked is all about and how it works. Well, yeah, I wanted people to have this on multiple different places. How do I explain to the LTMs, which is perfect and etc. Give a little bit more information, especially for the newer players and etc. And like, we discussed it for a bit. They welcomed the idea and other suggestions as to make this information, like, better ideas, like how exactly can we do it then, like, how can we make it in a way that it's there, but it's nothing too crazy, too complicated. And so as such, I'm gonna be working on the next few weeks on trying to locate, like, maybe, like, I don't know, specific places where this is critical, and then present it to them maybe on the next AOC meeting. And if they say, okay, yeah, seems like good, then maybe they will then consider it and maybe do it. As of right now, there's not going to be any action just yet because, again, we need to investigate this a bit further. But other than that, it does seem like a good idea. Now, another thing that I also mentioned was incentives for Ranked. I was talking about this one feature or idea, if you want to talk about it like that. Basically, I was talking about better rewards for Ranked players. All right, the more you win, the more you get, the higher you get, the more you win. Obviously, the devs always have this concern as to how, like, let's call them like this, but the weaker players, or the not as dedicated to competitive or even the game itself players, how would they feel if, like, they don't get anything from it because, like, they can't win as much, they can't get as much as ranks, and as such, yeah, they're gonna be looking into it. One of the ideas that I mentioned was even, like, for example, this new currency that would allow you to buy a different skin other than the gold skins. It basically, we would call them diamond skins. They'd be similar to the gold skins, but like in Smite, they have like an extra color, maybe like a blue, and you could literally just buy them by having this currency. And to get this currency, you would have to play and win, right? The more you win, and even the higher you get more, and then you could have this currency to buy these diamond skins. And It does sound like an idea, but we're gonna have to explore this a bit further because, you know, it's still complex. But yes, we want to see ways to convince people and to go into competitive, and see if it's a better and more pleasant experience for everybody. Obviously, when it comes to the rewards, right now, let's just see exactly what we can make it to make it like a very pleasant experience. As for rewards, obviously, I'm not going to say exactly what was discussed there. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see in the future. It's not that they wouldn't give me an answer. It's just that we need to focus on some things first. And once those are completely polished, we will move on to that other part. Now, the final thing that I mentioned, I mentioned 4 things, yes. The final thing that I mentioned was local recording of matches. I don't know if you guys remember, I did a video recently where I was teaching you guys on how to use codes into recording gameplays, right? And I explained this to them, and they were like, okay, sure, but we need to understand here's just one thing. Even though Paladins, yes, indeed is on Unreal Engine, like it's like we're building on top of it, right? So it's like we're putting extra layers on top of it. It doesn't end up just being a simple Unreal Engine thing, right? And as such, yeah, we can talk into some other people who are more in the area, see exactly what they think about this, and if they, if they think it could be added into the backlog, sure. If not, then we might end up having to scrap that, but yeah, we'll see. And maybe it could even be easy. We don't know exactly, it needs to be explored because I don't think they were even aware that you could do this with the codes right now. I do think that they knew that there was the demo rec, but since that got disabled a long time ago, it just ended up fading away. All right. That's my part, okay? I'm also going to be trying to divide this on the video. I think there's a way to do that, but I'll try my best, okay? Let's talk about the changes and ideas that... where is it? All right, here we go. We got Mr. BigMac. I would have BigMac with fries. Thank you very much. So the ideas that BigMac had was, for example, one for the shop ideas. He mentioned about having timers and set hours for deals of the days, double deals of the days, and bring back also weekly offers like deals of the week. I don't know if you guys remember, this was actually a thing, and it is true. Having more options on the shop is actually very cool. Unfortunately, the answer for this, I'm just gonna be straight up honest, it is red. I cannot even tell you what they mentioned or what they considered or not, and as such, that is the idea that BigMac presented and what he was talking about. I'm sure that he can actually provide more information about this. I'm just like, I don't have the whole time of the world to explain every single little thing, but I'm just giving you like the general idea of what he was mentioning. And if you really want to know more about this, you can actually find him on Twitter. I'll be making sure to put their Twitter's pages on the description, so you can go and actually talk to them directly, whatever social media they have, whether it is a Twitch, whether it is a Discord. I'm sure they'll have that stuff on their Twitter, so go and check it out. Okay, another thing that he was mentioning is also looking at prices of champions, because, like, there's champions that are, like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for certain prices to be like that. Every new champion that comes out, it's always 60,000, right? And there's champions that are 15, like, 30. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so he was bringing this up. And he actually even brought up a chart, like almost like a, what's it called? A tier list of what he thought that it would be better to divide these prices, right? To make it a bit more updated. And yeah, they mentioned about, like, it's actually something that they are looking into. Initially, they said the following: currently, the pricing is on a relatively logarithmic curve. I don't even know what that means. With some highly discounted and more at moderated discount, and the most at full price. Okay. And then the rest is mostly yellow, so I'm not really gonna talk about that, but I think that they will be looking into it in the future. I just don't think that it's a priority for now. And yeah, they did mention that it's an interesting idea, but there's a bit of like we need to get on a a place where everybody can agree for the same thing. So they will be looking into it, but they still need to explore this a bit further. Okay, so that's it for that. The third idea of Mr. BigMac was ranked requirements, and he was talking about actually having more stuff. For example, having 20 champions in total, 4 champions at least of each role, at least, and at least 2 champs at mastery level 8, and also account level 40 or higher. And to this, they also needed to make possibly champs easier to get in by, so the new players could get into ranked faster, to compensate a little bit of the, you know, the 2 things that I just mentioned here, which it makes sense. But yeah, basically the devs, they mentioned that the more players we can get into ranked is definitely an awesome idea. So yes, they really want to make anything that could possibly make this happen. It will possibly help with queue times as well, fighting better matches. But you know, they don't want to go and just put like a ton of barriers for new players to try to go to ranked, right? So what is being presented here, it is okay, sure, but at the same time, it's making it a bit harder for people to go into competitive. You know, and people who get into competitive initially, they end up being a burden for a lot of people. This is me saying it, not them. But after a while, eventually they'll get a little bit of a hang of it, right? And get a bit better. So yeah, like we want to have those people to come back. That's like where we're right now looking at ranked and trying to convince people to stay there as much as possible and keep coming back, right? If we keep putting barriers into new players that can't just jump into competitive once they start having the minimum of the game, then it's a lot harder to have players there and queues times go higher. So yeah, they're going to be looking into this and seeing if this is actually a good thing to do. Again, I'm thinking that they might even look at the champions easier to get in by, but we'll see that, especially because of the whole balance of gold got changed. Also, his fourth idea was Barrack in a Leon's dress. And then his fifth idea, or whatever that is. Oh, no, that's the description. Sorry. That's the description of the idea. Please make this happen. The answer to the devs was, this skin is something that the devs enjoy as well, but we are aware that with the skirt, it would require deeper, larger investment changes to Barrack's rig that aren't there causing a higher cost. So it's not as straightforward as folks might imagine. But this was not a no, so hey, it may actually happen. Who knows? All right, let's go to Nikita, King Nick. He was talking about the queue times initially. He was talking about how we should revert to queue timers from 10 minutes to 5 minutes based on feedback that a lot of people have been giving to him. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a change recently that they did on matchmaking to take longer until it stops taking account to certain details, right? And basically what he was saying was that the best fix for queue times and etc. was to get a bigger player base, right? And maybe crossplay ranked could be introduced, even if it's like a last option. And they were mostly they did a big text in green. I'm not going to be able to read all of this, obviously, and there's also a part there that it's in red that I'm definitely not going to read. But yes, you know, they mentioned about how it's actually interesting how some people have this idea, this feedback of the change that happened from the 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and yeah, like, you know, they're going to be looking into this until then in the future, but I'm not going to exactly explain what it is, just because if I explain it, you guys are not going to be understanding it to its full potential. Just because, like, even though they write it here, pretty much of what they said, there's still things that they said it in a way that they could say it better than me. But the thing is, like, again, ranked is one of the things that we've been looking at a lot right now. All of us, basically. And we're trying to make ranked a better experience, maybe get some more rewards in there, maybe be more literally call more players into it so we can get better queues, better matchmaking, etc., right? And this is definitely something they want 100%. Like, let's not, you know, let's not be dumb here. They did say that they did expect some concerns when it comes to the cross-play part, the fairness of it, at least. You know, but they might end up considering it, since this was one of the other parts that they were talking about. That being said, for most of the population, I'd expect matches to be closer regardless of input, simply because there are more players for the matchmaker to choose from, particularly outside of the very highest and lowest yields of the respective platforms. So, in a way, they were like, okay, I'm scared of going into this of the crossplay, but at the same time, maybe it could improve matchmaking because there's going to be a wider spectrum of players, and therefore, then that is fantastic, because like then the games will be a little bit more balanced, right? It's not going to be that entire thing of there's a GM player on my plat lobby and he's playing with a controller. No. There's going to be a lot more GM players, and they're going to be crossing paths a little bit more. Now, I have myself a concern, which is that, unfortunately, this is not making fun of controller players. I, too, play a controller, but I don't feel like the skill level of some controller players, even though they might have like that diamond rank or that master rank, is exactly the same when it comes to computer. I can definitely tell that there's a lot of diamond players on computer and a lot of diamond players on console that if they ended up clashing together, it would be a bloodbath. All right, that computer player would definitely delete the controller player, because controller unfortunately is limited to a thumb, right? And a computer is limited to an entire arm to aim. I mean, let's be as honest as that, right? So unless that controller player ends up going for a hit scan so he can abuse the aim assist to at least have an advantage, there's not really a fight there, right? You can be the best in the world. There's still going to be a lot of struggling against somebody that has pretty much the same rank, if not the highest, right? So that may be something they need to be careful about, but we'll see. Okay, he also mentioned rank requirements. Accounts at level 30, 24 champions unlocked, and, you know, to give them a little bit more time so they can get used to the game and not just go into competitive like a bunch of noobs, obviously. And they pretty much just said the same answer as they did to BigMac. So, you know, it's pretty much the same thing. He ended up also mentioning about rank rewards, where he was talking about like the top players on each category could actually have maybe like crystals, you know, like what happens in tournaments. Like they give crystals into the private tournaments, and they could basically do something like this. But unfortunately, the entire answer from design is in yellow. So I'm really not gonna go into this much, but again, seriously, Hi-Rez is very, very dedicated right now to make competitive as pleasant as possible for everyone. So I believe 100% that they still want to look into this. It's just not, we need to be careful is what we're going to do. Like, we can't just throw stuff for free at everybody at all times, right? And this is not me saying that, this is not them saying that, this is me saying it. Because I understand their point of view on this. So it needs to be careful, right? We can't just jump in and say, yay, here, have free stuff, play competitive, please, right? That's not gonna be exactly how it's going to work. I mean, we already see some of the things, like they try to put some of the skins that a lot of people request, like Willow skin and etc., and still people don't really want to go in there. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. All right. Now let's go here into a live. The first point that he mentioned was about rewards. Rewards people for their effort in dedications and ranked. Once again, pretty much rewards. You mentioned maybe crystals, skin boosters, bounty coins for promotions, special avatar sprays at higher tiers, or crystals for the top 10. And the answer was pretty much the same. Once again, unfortunately, we ended up clashing a little bit on almost the same things here. This meeting had a lot of the same subjects, which most of it was competitive, which, by the way, since I'm here already, and I'm not even expecting people to go into the end of the video entirely, I just want to know you guys' opinions when it comes to competitive. If you play competitive, why do you play it? Right? Why do you keep playing competitive? What is exactly your point on playing competitive? Like, what are we trying to do by just keep playing competitive? Or is it like the mode that you prefer? Do you just want to be the best? Do you want to flex? What exactly is it, right? And if you don't play competitive, why? Why don't you play competitive? I want to know that, right? I can have that sort of feedback right now if you guys ended up putting it in the comments and send it over to them on the next, maybe the next AOC meeting, right? So please, if you can, throw it down in the comments below and I'll be sure to look at it as soon as possible. So, he also mentioned about reducing time in a match lobby if both teams use all their time, almost 8 minutes, are used for drafting. This time plus the queue times is quite a lot to start a simple rank match. Basically, I'm thinking what he was talking about here was the time that it takes until a match starts, you know, and reducing a couple seconds in certain parts like team banning, champion selection, bonus times, and team picks. 40 seconds would keep the same time, etc. All right, so they had a green part here, where yes, they were interested in making changes to lobby timers, but further adjustments would likely require breaking these out of separate timers, which would be non-trivial programming work, and their general pattern would be make all of them smaller and bonus times longer so that it can be faster. So yeah, like you can convince people a little bit onto, hey, your time is running out and now you're on the bonus time, like don't use it all, right? Maybe it, like mentally it will trigger people to, okay, I gotta be faster. So yeah, could be something to speed up the draft, which is cool. He also ended up mentioning something here about, I believe, rewards. And they just said same thing as above. So there you go. All right. Then he actually had some stuff here mentioning on Bomb Queen, Ray, and in general, being able to switch specs between different skins, and platform indicator and match lobby and scoreboard for PC. My memory is failing me because the meeting was not right now. I don't remember exactly what they said about that. I mean, maybe we can see it in the future. I don't know. I don't think they mentioned it here, unfortunately. I'm sorry. When it comes to Bomb Queen, they did mention that the array has a little bit of balance on the PDS at last time that it was up online for the people who didn't know. And maybe there will be some sort of a change when it comes into live servers, and they're going to grab as much as possible of the feedback as well from the live service, because unfortunately, and this is me saying it now, unfortunately PDS does not provide enough feedback for a lot of these things. People refuse to play on PDS, and it's a shame. Because people just go in there, play one, 2 games, and then just leave. Okay, yes, you got lag. Okay, yes, it's the same people over and over. Yes, maybe you only have like NA servers, and mostly it's only PC. Okay, sure, I understand. But for the people who can, all of this feedback is important. We're gonna have situations like a Zon coming into the game if you don't actually help us with this. So we need as much as people as possible on PDS, so we can get as much as feedback as possible, so that there's like a few little changes before the champion goes into live servers, and then we just have to wait for the first patch to be over to have the proper feedback, because most people would just be playing it on live servers and not on PDS, right? Like console players, I can understand that, but PC players, you got this chance. All right, help us. All right. But yeah, like they also mentioned that they would be looking into Ray because of the recent change that happened to her ultimate. There's apparently some weird interaction there. So they're going to be looking into it, but it may not just go into this patch just yet, if anything is changed, obviously. All right, so that is for Alive. Now let's go over here and check. Where is it? We got Jimeras here. Okay, so Jimeras was mentioned about Crosshair. Lots of people have asked me to say this. It's true that sometimes you don't feel comfortable playing with default crosshairs in Paladins. The easiest solution for this is to make options for people to customize their crosshair however they want. What they said was that the main blocker is finding time with the UI. This involves changing the menu UI, adding new crosshairs themselves, and then we would have to also investigate edge cases with any of our abilities that modify crosshairs. I've added this to our list of features to potentially look into. That's fantastic. All right, So for custom crosshairs, there you go. Jimeras mentioned it, and they said that they may be looking into it. Then he was talking about stuff to spend gold in. He actually showed us a little bit of a PowerPoint with some cool things, like for example, a decoration for your little profile banner on your friends list. That you could purchase different backgrounds and you can put whatever the hell you want in there. More skins to buy for gold, and maybe community announcers for the community. Like, I'm guessing that he was mentioning announcers like, for example, streamers or just people who are part of the community, maybe even some devs and etc. Unfortunately, most of this was all red, so I'm kind of not going to be looking into that. And to try to break down the rest, we'll see. Like, it's hard to explain here what's going on. One of the things they did mention about the banners, for example, was banners might be non-trivial to add, but finding new places to add to place to the art, we aren't opposed to. Our marketing monetization teams are still looking into ways to address the gold economy. So at least we know that. They like the idea of the new 2D customization options. So that's also very cool. And that's for the rest, I'm not really going to be mentioning much. Let's just go into his third suggestion, which was bans. He thinks basically there's not enough bans, but there are some toxic people outside of the game that insult on social networks, haters, etc. So basically what he's saying is there's still a lot of toxicity, even if it's not inside of the game, still related to the community of Paladins. There's a lot of people in there who are evading these bans in a certain way, right? He also said the following: I've been playing a lot of Valorant, and a mechanic that I really like about Valorant is that if you're toxic or you stay AFK, they ban you, but only from ranked. This is actually an interesting idea because I remember mentioning this like 2 years ago, but I always thought that they wouldn't be good because of like reducing the amount of players in competitive just because they're toxic. They probably would just go into a Smurf or something like that and banning them from ranked by IP. I'm guessing that would be almost impossible. But yeah, you can imagine. And then he said, you can play everything else, but you can't play ranked until the time of the ban is over. Makes sense. All right. The devs basically talked about a lesser ban is not an option. I had a lesser ban is not an option I had previously given much thought to ranked only. My main focus is on finding and punishing our toxic players more quickly. Then he says something here that we're not going to be talking about. I have seen some concerns of a ban wave and being banned unfairly. I don't believe that to be the case, certainly not the vast majority. The bans that have gone out isn't a script analyzing people wrong. It's a very rare this would ever even happen. Okay, so basically this is he's giving an answer at the same time into what Jay Maris is saying here, but at the same time addressing what's going on in the community, that a lot of people are saying that they're being banned unfairly and that it makes no sense. So that's not exactly happening. All right, that's not exactly what's going on. Yes, there have been some cases where people, they can just address hires through customer support and etc. They get investigated and they get fixed. But there's been a lot of people been banned in the last few weeks that makes a lot of sense for them to be banned. Okay, these actions need to be taken because people are just getting more and more toxic, and this needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And I can tell you there's been like at least 3 different people who have come over to me on DMs acting like they're angels and saying, please, I got banned. Oh. And I'm not going to say names. I'm not saying that it's anybody I've spoken to recently. This has happened on Twitter, for example. And listen, I understand you want to be unbanned, but I can't be responsible for you or Hyras for the behavior you have. For example, I have a friend of mine. I've always liked the person, but I know that this person is toxic. He ends up saying a lot of bad things in game, and then he ends up getting banned. And then it's hard for anyone to help him because he's literally giving the enemies, the people who are having a fight with him, he's giving them what they want. If you're having a fight with anybody you don't like, it just don't be toxic. You're gonna get banned eventually, and then you're gonna be like, I never did anything. Well, I'm sorry. You're an angel. Your actions have consequences. You need to calm down a bit, okay? Please. All right? If you feel like you did really got unfairly banned, go to customer support or even try to address one of the AOC members or maybe a dev, and we'll try to look into it and try to help you. I'm not going to say that every single case is definitely going to be a thing, so all right, please at least have the decency of understanding that you need to be not guilty for this to be fixed, okay? Don't make us waste our time, please. All right. Radar then mentioned that the dev team is working hard on some additional tools and options that should address disruptive behavior. As everyone has noticed, account actions have increased significantly over the last few weeks due to new tech and other resources. Our goal is to show players our tolerance level for community interactions and allow them to avoid disruptive behavior. Those who are intent of consistent toxic behavior are not the type of players we're looking to keep in our game. Our policies provide a number of changes for us to address such behavior with everyone, and we hope it's taken seriously. I hope that this could be of an easy understanding for everyone, right? This is something I've said it for a long time. I'm basically going to say it for everybody as well. Toxic behavior, you need to tone it down. All right? Go play some zombies and shoot some zombies if you're really mad at something. Don't take it out on somebody that maybe had a rough day, just goes home, wants to play some paladins, enters in competitive, the first thing he gets is somebody just calling him names. All right, just because you don't like the talent he picked or because he's not playing the way you like, calm down. All right, let's go. And to then Fishnet. So Fishnet, there's a bit of a thing here. I'm not gonna really explain much, but he basically did like a document which has like, I'm thinking is to suggest changes to cards, talents, etc. that don't not get used at all, and how they could be benefit to like balance it even a little bit more, give them a little bit more use. But again, this would be a lot easier for him to explain. So, because like in the document, there's only something saying reference document, and then he has his own document, which I don't have access because I don't actually know from the top of my head. So I'm sorry. But I'll make sure that in the next future AOC meetings that if there's stuff like this, I'll try to explore it a little bit more so I can explain it better, because I really can't do anything better here. Sorry. And finally, we have Infernal. The first thing that Infernal mentioned was basically buffs to Betty La Bomba, direct damage on her weapon, a little nerf to her cluster grenade ability, having less bombs coming out of it, which is a right click, explosive personality, allowing to basically to move around instead of just going forward, which is her movement ability. And also fixing a little bit of a delay that she has on her shots and etc. Because sometimes you want to flick and it's hard because as soon as you start moving, the bomb will go somewhere else. Now, what they said was pretty much yellow, but there's buffs planned for her after PDS. So let's see if those are going to be related to what Infernal has suggested here. Then, Infernal also mentioned two other things. It was Binary Star Genos and Megathon Cassie. On the Binary Star Genos, she mentioned to revert the nerf that was just done, and instead to cut the ammo when you use the talent Binary Star to half, and also to nerf the card that gives Life Rip to Genos, which in my honest opinion, I don't know why this card exists. One of the things they did say that they wanted to do was to remove items from that you can buy from the item shop from cards that have like, it's just like direct effect. So the card is literally just gives you Life Rip. There's like, it's like buying Life Rip 2 times, right? You buy it in game and then you have it in cards. It makes no sense for this card to exist. I'm sorry for the Genos mains, but that's just my opinion. Megathon Cassie, she's saying that basically the nerf did nothing. But instead she would suggest to maybe to rework the card and to do something completely different instead of the Megathon effect. She mentioned, for example, increase your movement speed for 3 seconds after activating Blast Shot, decrease the cooldown of dodge roll for each enemy hit with Blast Shot, or decrease the cooldown of disengage for each enemy hit with Blast Shot, increase the blast radius of Blast Shot by X%, or even gain reload speed for 3 seconds after activating Blast Shot. Now, most of the answer here was actually in red, but they did mention that the population of players who test during PDS is relatively small when compared to in live, which isn't always represented properly. We hope to get more feedback and information from a wider range of player base, but I'm guessing live servers. So yeah. I'm sorry that the video was a little bit long. You were at 30 minutes. It's understandable, but like I tried to shrink down as much as possible. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I mean, I did mention Infernal, Fishnet, J Maras, Sterile Tick. Did I mention Sterile Tick? No, I did not. Okay, I almost forgot about Sterile Tick. Okay, let's go here into the last one. Sorry. So one of the things that he mentioned was removing aim assist from deployables, because, you know, on for console players that is, you know, that's a little bit bad, and so it should be changed. And then their answer is that, you know, they'll look into it. There's not really much of an answer here. It's in yellow, so I can't really expose it. Sorry. Then he also mentioned about matchmaking. Counterweight matchmaking shouldn't exist. I know there are a lot of things that about matchmaking that are generally disliked, but the counterweight mechanism is the most disliked mechanism of them all. 2 GMs of gold and a 2 in ranks is not equal to a 5 diamond players. A plat should not be a team of unranked. A plat should not be on a team of unranked in bronzes versus a team of silvers. 1 or 2 good players notoriously does not make up for a bad team. It makes matches unfun for everyone. I basically agree with what he's saying here. This is something that I've also has mentioned for a very long time. I don't understand why this is actually a thing. Like, unfortunately, it does seem to be a recurring thing where matchmaking is an average, right? So, like, if you have 1 GM on one team and then, like, 4 bronze players, on the enemy team you'll have, like, all diamond players because that's sort of like the average or something. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but this is what happens a lot. And unfortunately, this is literally nothing for matchmaking. People will literally get pissed over this shit. So yeah, I understand what he's saying out here. I totally agree. They did have a big answer here with a lot of green, so I'll be trying to get into that in just a second. He also mentioned whatever happens in the future of matchmaking, at least some semblance of balanced teams would be greatly preferred. So basically, yeah, same thing. Yeah, so there's a part where they said in red something I cannot say. But they just say this. My understanding is the matchmaker never deliberately selects out all the players in the queue. Here's a very high skill and some low skill players to balance it out. The worst case outliers are going to be at the very top and bottom from who the population are of well-matched opponents is smallest. For all players first, it will attempt to find a good match. Then, after a time, it will relax those rules and look for an okay match. So, I'm gonna be straight up honest. If you're looking for good matchmaking, queue for like 4-5 minutes tops, and then just re-queue. I'm not gonna lie, just do it. Also, here's the thing. I don't think they mentioned this, but unfortunately, Smurfs and parties, they do play a big role on matchmaking, and they kind of fuck it up. I'm not gonna lie. Especially Smurfs. Congratulations. Once it picks 10 players for a match, then it decides how to split these teams. The second step the matchmaker does the best is they can, with those set of the 10 players, which is where you've seen one team of highest plus lowest versus another team of the middle. So basically, yeah, like, you may have a rank, but it doesn't mean that you have the same elo as another person of the exact same rank, right? So sometimes the average will not just be about ranks. You may think, oh shit, they all got diamonds and we're like 4 plats and 1 diamond, but why? Sometimes, due to how they play, like sometimes these people play a lot, they got a high elo and then they just stop playing for a while, they let it decay, and the next thing you know, they're plats. And that is another thing that the matchmaker also takes account to, right? They think, hey, you got a big elo, you got a small rank compared to the others, but I mean, your elo is high, so this must means you're good. So it's hard to balance stuff like this. I'm not saying this is what they're saying, but it's saying that this happened, and I can guarantee you this is a true thing, because it has happened to me. I've stopped playing ranked for a while after I got GM at the beginning of the last season, season 3, I think, season 4. Right in the beginning of the season, I stopped playing for a while, I decayed, and then when I went back, I was being matched against GM players as well, while I was still just like diamond. And it would make no sense, right? But yeah, the game still would assume you have the elo of a GM player, so this must mean that you are on that level. And so there was an average done over that. Parties, of course, make both of these steps more complicated. This was the part I was mentioning about parties. By the time it gets to the point in these examples, it has failed to find another option, and these are the best options it has. So, in a way, I don't know if maybe in the future I may actually suggest this, as they do it in Smite, where queues actually now have like a timer, and inside of this timer, it literally locks everyone that it's queuing at the same time, and it divides them all as much as possible, instead of just looking for one specific match. I think that could be a thing. And then, like, that timer would reset matchmaking, instead of just going for, like, oh, you've been queuing for 10 minutes, better just give you a shit match, you know? It would just reset every time. You would get to the end of the 5 minutes of queue, imagine, like a timer. I think Realm Royale even had this for a while. And after those 5 minutes, if you didn't find a match, it just resets. And if you did find a match, it will put you in the match that is a bit more balanced. All right. They also mentioned about an experimental ranked playlist mode. I think what he was talking about here, if I remember correctly, is that he was talking about maybe like putting, you know, competitives of maybe like TDMs, onslaughts, and maybe even some other game modes in the future. You know, like, and this is true, in Smite we have sort of this. So, you know, could be a thing. You have like 1v1s ranked in Smite, so. But yeah, main concerns here would be queue population. The more you split up the queues, the more game modes, the bigger are the chances of not finding a proper queue, and people get a little bit more divided, so this is definitely a concern for them. For Paladins, we see players primarily in Siege by a large margin, and virtually any game in the rank queue is going to be smaller than casual, so taking a small queue and making it smaller may hurt matchmaking. So unfortunately, I don't think that's an idea that it will definitely be considered. But this is pretty much it. I'm pretty sure I've covered for everyone now. I almost missed the sterile tick there, but we got him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to hear you guys' opinions on these ideas. Do you think that there's any of the ideas that I just mentioned here that should be considered further, and we should explore them a little bit more? And again, I want to know about your opinions on ranked, because as you can see, this is one of the things we've been talking the most on this entire, on that specific AOC meeting. We'll see the next one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry for taking your time. Sorry for making such a long video, but with like 8 different people to talk about what they said and the answers from the devs and explaining exactly what the ideas are, it kind of takes a little bit of time, so I hope you understand. But that will be it for today. I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.